Welcome to Remote Learning. For this lesson, we'll look at Act 1, Scene 6 and 7, focusing on the relationship between Macbeth and Lady Macbeth. Here I've included some images and I want you to use them to answer this question. So, what was expected of a Jacobean woman? For this lesson, all you'll need is a piece of pen and paper or a Word document open, and of course, your brain. So what are we learning today? So today we're going to analyse how Shakespeare builds tension in Act 1, Scene 6 and 7, more specifically Lady Macbeth's manipulation and Macbeth's doubts. So why are we learning this? Well, these scenes, especially Act 1, Scene 7, shows conflict between Lady Macbeth and Macbeth, and their relationship dynamic is important in the play. So how does this fit into our learning journey? Well, last lesson we did a learning checkpoint discussing Act 1, Scene 5. This lesson is our 10th lesson in Macbeth, where we'll explore Act 1, Scene 6 and 7. And next lesson, we'll explore Act 2, Scene 1, the famous dagger scene. So our learning objective today, guys, is to identify and explain the growing tension between Macbeth and Lady Macbeth in Act 1, Scene 7, and analyse the language Shakespeare uses to portray their relationship dynamic. So first of all, I'll give you a starter task, which will pose a question which is linked to today's learning. Then I'll give you some new information and a keyword. Then for the student-led part of the lesson, we'll listen to Act 1, Scene 6 and 7 and analyse specific quotations from these scenes. And then for the student-led part, guys, I'll send you away to complete a task that will secure your knowledge of today's lesson. So guys, to begin, I want you to consider this question. If you want someone to do something they didn't want to do, how could you convince them otherwise? What would you do or say? So please pause the video here and unpause when you are ready. Okay guys, let's look at our key word or perhaps theme of today's lesson, so manipulation. So on a piece of paper or Word document, can you please write this key word? So manipulation is to control or influence a person or situation in an often clever way. So in the context of Macbeth, there are three main instances of manipulation. So the first is being the witch's influence over Macbeth and how they use the gift of foresight to know precisely how their words would affect Macbeth. The second is Lady Macbeth's control over her husband, so manipulating and essentially bullying him into killing King Duncan. And the third happens later in the play, where Macbeth manipulates men that Banquo is the enemy and should therefore be killed. So he blames these murders' poverty on Banquo himself. So now we're going to listen to Act 1, Scene 6 of Macbeth. So as you listen, think about who greets Duncan and what this could suggest, how Lady Macbeth's words contrast with the words in the previous scene, and what an audience would think about Lady Macbeth in this scene. Act 1, Scene 6. Hautboys and torches. Enter King Duncan, Malcolm, Donalbain, Banquo, Lennox, Macduff, Ross, Angus and attendants. This castle hath a pleasant seat. The air nimbly and sweetly recommends itself unto our gentle senses.
This guest of summer, the temple-haunting marlet, does approve by his loved masonry that the heaven's breath smells wooingly here. No jutty, frieze, buttress, nor coign of vantage, but this bird hath made his pendant bed and procreant cradle. Where they most breed and haunt, I have observed, the air is delicate.
Enter Lady Macbeth. See, our honoured hostess. The love that follows us sometimes is our trouble, which still we thank as love. Therein I teach you how you shall bid God gild us from your pains and thank us for your trouble.
All our service, in every point twice done and then done double, were poor and single business to contend against those honours, deep and broad, wherewith your majesty loads our house. For those of old and the late dignities heaped up to them, we rest your hermits.
Where's the Thane of Cawdor? We coursed him at the heels and had a purpose to be his purveyor. But he rides well, and his great love, sharp as his spur, hath holp him to his home before us. Fair and noble hostess, we are your guests tonight.
Your servants ever have theirs, themselves, and what is theirs in compt, to make their audit at your highness's pleasure, still to return your own.
Give me your hand. Conduct me to mine host. We love him highly, and shall continue our graces towards him. By your leave, hostess. Exeunt. So now we're going to listen to Act 1, Scene 7 of Macbeth. So as you listen, think about how Macbeth is feeling in this scene, how Lady Macbeth reacts to Macbeth's decision, and how Lady Macbeth manipulates Macbeth. Act 1, Scene 7, Macbeth's castle. Hawk boys and torches enter a sewer and divers servants with dishes and service, and pass over the stage, then enter Macbeth.
If it were done when 'tis done, then 'twere well it were done quickly. If the assassination could trammel upon the consequence and catch with his surcease success, that but this blow might be the be-all and end-all here. But here, upon this bank and shoal of time, well jump to life to come. But in these cases we still have judgment here, that we but teach bloody instruction, which, being taught, return to plague the investor. This even-handed justice commends the ingredients of our poisoned chalice. To our own lips he's here in double trust. First, I am his kinsman and his subject, strong both against the deed. Then, as his host, who should against his murderer shut the door, not bear the knife myself. Besides, this Duncan hath borne his facilities so meek, hath been so clear in his great office, that his virtues will plead like angels, trumpet-tongued against the deep damnation of his taking off, and pity like a new-born babe striding the blast, or heaven's cherubim horsed upon the sightless couriers of the air, shall blow the horrid deed in every eye, that tears shall drown the wind. I have no spur to prick the sides of my intent, but only vaulting ambition which overleaps itself and falls on the other.
Enter Lady Macbeth.
How now? What news?
He has almost supped. Why have you left the chamber?
Hath he asked for me?
Know you not he has?
We will proceed no further in this business. He hath honoured me of late, and I have bought golden opinions from all sorts of people, which would be worn now in their newest gloss, not cast aside so soon.
Was the hope drunk wherein you dressed yourself? Hath it slept since? And wakes it now to look so green and pale of what it did so freely? From this time such I account thy love. Art thou afeard to be the same in thine own act and valour as thou art in desire? Wouldst thou have that which thou esteems the ornament of life, and live a coward in thine own esteem, letting I dare not wait upon I would, like the poor cat i' th' adage?
Prithee, peace. I dare do all that may become a man. Who dares do more is none.
What beast was it then that made you break this enterprise to me? When you durst do it, then you were a man, and to be more than what you were, you would be so much more the man. Nor time nor place did then adhere, and yet you would make both. They have made themselves, and that their fitness now does unmake you. I have given suck, and know how tender 'tis to love the babe that milks me. I would, while it was smiling in my face, have plucked my nipple from his boneless gums and dashed his brains out, had I so sworn as you have done to this.
If we should fail?
We fail. But screw your courage to the sticking place, and will not fail. When Duncan is asleep, whereto the rather shall his day's hard journey soundly invite him, his two chamberlains will I, with wine and wassail, so convince that memory, the warder of the brain, shall be a fume, and the receipt of reason a limebeck only. When in swinish sleep their drenched natures lie as in a death, what cannot you and I perform upon the unguarded Duncan? What not put upon his spongy officers, who shall bear the guilt of our great quell?
Bring forth men children only, for thy undaunted mettle should compose nothing but males. Would it not be received when we have marked with blood those sleepy two of his own chamber and used their very daggers, that they have done it?
Who dares receive it other, as we shall make our griefs and clamour roar upon his death?
I am settled and bend up, each corporal agent to this terrible feat. Away, and mock the time with fairest show. False face must hide what the false heart doth know.
Exeunt. Okay guys, now I want you to match up these quotations to its description. Please pause the video here and unpause when you are ready. Okay guys, let's match them up. So the first one was the hope drunk wherein you dressed yourself. hath it slept since? So here, Lady Macbeth asks whether Macbeth's earlier courage was a result of alcohol. So next we have, from this time such I account thy love. So here, Lady Macbeth suggests that Macbeth's cowardice now forces her to reflect on their marriage. So next one, when you durst do it, then you were a man. So here, Lady Macbeth says that when Macbeth agreed to do it, he acted like a true man. So the last one, guys, so I would have plucked my nipple from his boneless gums and dashed the brains out, had I so sworn. So here Lady Macbeth says that she would honour what she'd pledged to do, regardless of any emotional attachments. Okay guys, let's focus on 3 key quotations of Lady Macbeth's manipulation in Act 1, Scene 7. So the first thing we have is drunk, and this can be used in the context of inebriation, so by alcohol, but also is used to describe someone who is not thinking due to being so immersed in an action or feeling, okay? So next we have this phrase here. So this references the idea that someone can wear or appear how they choose to. Okay, so again it references the theme of reality versus appearance. So next we have this expression. So not only is this a reference to dreams while sleeping, but is of omission or something having gone away. So next we have, when you durst do it, then you were a man. So again, remember here that Lady Macbeth is saying that when Macbeth agreed to kill the king, he was acting like a true man. So durst is an archaic or old version of the word dare. So here Lady Macbeth is suggesting that men, by nature, should be daring and be willing to do difficult things to succeed. So next we have this expression here, so you were a man. So here Lady Macbeth is doubting Macbeth's masculinity, so essentially manipulating him by suggesting that if he doesn't do what she suggested, so kill the king in this case, he's acting like a female of that period. So notice how aggressive and insulting Lady Macbeth is here. So she's subverting or going against how a stereotypical woman would have spoken to their husbands during the Jacobean era. So an audience here will consider Macbeth a weak character regardless, as he is being dominated by a female character. So now let's look at this line here. So I would have plucked my nipple from his boneless gums and dashed the brains out, had I so sworn. So Lady Macbeth uses an analogy here, so suggesting that she would honour her word or what she promised to do, even if she promised to kill her newborn baby, despite how much she loved it. Okay, so boneless gums obviously refers to newborn babies and who are actually dependent on their parents to survive. So this is a contrast that is shocking, okay, because it's next to the graphic image of dash the brains out. Okay, so this is a brutal and violent example for Lady Macbeth to use. So this would have been shocking for a female character during this period to voice. So the quotation illustrates how cold Lady Macbeth claims that she can be, but notice that I use the word claim here, as her attitude changes drastically towards the end of the play. So now guys, I want you to match up each of these Macbeth quotations to its description. Please pause the video here and unpause when you are ready. Okay guys, let's match these up. So the first one, this blow might be the be all and the end all here. Okay, so here, Macbeth fears the consequences of his actions. So next we still have judgment here. Okay, so again, Macbeth is afraid of those consequences. Next we have I am his kinsman and his subject. So here Macbeth declares that he's loyal to King Duncan. So next we have as his host who should against his murder shut the door, not bear the knife himself. Okay, so here Macbeth is saying that he should protect the king, not kill him. So next we have hath been so clear in his great office. Okay, so here Macbeth is thinking about how virtuous Duncan is. And the last one guys, I have no spur. So Macbeth says that he has no reason. Okay guys, now we're going to focus on 3 quotations of Macbeth's doubt in Act 1, Scene 7. So the first one we'll look at is, this blow might be the be all and the end all here. So like I said previously, this shows that Macbeth fears the consequences of his actions. So we have the word blow, okay, and although this can be a verb form, in this context it's noun form, okay, so this refers to the act of murdering King Duncan. So Blow can also refer to something bad or unwelcoming. So in the sentence we can say, the loss of their brother was a massive blow to the family. Okay, so the next we have this phrase, the be all and the end all. Okay, so this is an odd phrase for Shakespeare to use, as it can mean the most extreme or superlative, but also the ultimate aim or justification. So this idiom is clever in its use, not only because it resources it back to Macbeth itself, but it also concisely captures the complex emotion and thoughts of Macbeth. Okay guys, now we're going to focus on this quote here. Okay, so as his host, who should against his murder shut the door, not bear the knife himself. Okay, so let's look at host, guys. So this is custom, and in terms of hospitality was an expectation for a king, and it was considered a great honour for someone to host royalty, okay, to allow them in their house. But by considering murder, a Jacobean audience would have strongly been against Macbeth's intentions and would be shocked at the suggestion of actually killing a king at all. Okay, so next we have this phrase, so shut the door. So as a subject of the king, Macbeth should be preventing harm to his monarch, not contemplating his murder. So shut the door is an illustration of preventative action. So next we have the knife, and the act and the symbolism of a knife is a negative one and suggests deception and cowardice. Okay, so like a knife in the back. Okay, so this is an instrument of death and treason. Okay guys, the last quotation we're going to look at is hath been so clear in his great office. Okay, so here Macbeth is thinking about how virtuous Duncan is. So the phrase so clear shows how pure and how virtuous King Duncan is. Okay, so his innocence is offered as a reason for not murdering him. So this shows that Macbeth would consider Duncan a victim due to the fact he doesn't deserve death. So next we have great office, and this phrase refers to how good of a king Duncan has been. Okay, so he's been generous to his loyal subjects, but treating his enemies accordingly. Okay, so here Macbeth is trying to argue against killing him, and this conflict is later exploited by Lady Macbeth. Okay guys, so on your office form, I want you to first analyse the quotations by answering the questions, then complete the multiple choice questions to secure your knowledge of these scenes. So please ensure your answers are in full sentences. This activity should take no more than 30 minutes. Ensure your work is saved and emailed to your English teacher where possible. If you are writing on paper, please keep these safely stored for when you return to school.